In my last video, I built this sweet miter station here behind me. This video, we're gonna build big old cabinets to go above it. These cabinets will be about 4 feet tall and roughly 13 feet wide. Funny thing about them being so big is I don't have anything to put in them. We had a big fire, I lost all my tools, lost everything. You can check my channel for those videos. My goal with this cabinet is to build it as cheap as I possibly can, yet still keep it as cool as I possibly can. One of the ways I'm gonna be able to keep this really cheap and really cool is with these cabinet doors right here. We found these at our local Habitat for Humanity, and I believe I got these for $5 a piece without a panel, and these with a panel for $10 a piece. These are white oak, beautiful cabinet doors. They're very well built and they look great. Another way I'm gonna be able to make these cabinets cheap is with this plywood right here. I got this from the same Habitat for Humanity, and I think I paid $6 or $7 a sheet for this. It's 3/4 inch pre-finished plywood. I don't know the species of it, but it's very nice stuff. Also, I got this 1/2 inch pre-finished plywood. So I'm gonna build these in 3 different sections. The first cabinet will be with these hollow doors. The second cabinet with these doors with the panel, and the third cabinet, these doors here. Now the reason I'm doing this in 3 different cabinets is luckily these will all fit in one carcass, but these here are different sizes, and also they're gonna go on the ends. These pieces of plywood that I'm working with are about 23.5 inches wide. I'm going to cut them down to 11 inches. But first I'm gonna cut those in half so I get a clean edge, and I'll flip them over, get my final dimensions there. I'm hoping I can build this first section with only 2 of those pieces of plywood. We'll see. This is my first time using this particular table saw. It's a little underpowered than what I'm used to. Well, it just had a first for me with plywood. Both of these sheets had tension in them. So in the very beginning, as I was cutting through, they both were pulling towards the center. I've never had that happen to me with plywood. I've had it happen with hardwood many a times, but plywood, this stuff was left out in the rain a little bit, so maybe because of the moisture it pulled in. I don't know. We'll go for our second pass, get them all squared up to final dimension. We'll keep on trucking. So like I said earlier, I just recently built this miter station. I have a video for that. Check in the description below. And it's awesome. There's one thing I forgot to do though, that I will do eventually, and that is to add the little sticky tape measure here to go with my stop block. But that's all right, I'll get around to it. All right, now it's time to cut these down to length. For this, I need 2 that are 96.5 inches long. It's already there. And then I need 1, 2, 3, 4 that are 47 inches long. Like I said earlier, hopefully I have enough just out of these 2 pieces of plywood. I was supposed to catch that. All right, I got everything cut for the center cabinet. That's what this stack here is. Now it's time to move on the 2 side cabinets. And just like that, everything's cut and ready to go. I really wish the editing magic worked in real life. Wouldn't that be great? Snap your finger, got a bunch of wood cut. Since this is pre-finished ply, I am going to sand down the ends so that I get some glue adhesion. It's probably not totally necessary because I'm going to use screws to attach this whole thing together, but thankfully to do this, it's only on the insides of the top and bottom pieces. So per cabinet, it's only 4 little ends. It'll be super fast, super easy. I think well worth the effort. Now I know I just said I don't have some of the tools. Well, one of those tools I'm waiting for is a countersink drill bit. Like I said, I want to use screws on this. I figured I'll get ahead of schedule a little bit because I don't know when that's going to be here. And I will start throwing in some nails and just get these little ones assembled first. I actually already assembled one of them. Looks good. So I'll move on to this one to get this assembled. I will wait for screws for the big guy though. But at least I can get ahead of schedule, get these dialed in. Now I know I just said get ahead of schedule. I don't have a schedule. Just want to get it done. All right, well, this turned out pretty good. So next I'm going to work on the stringers to attach to the wall. So I'm going to have one on top, one on the bottom. Just like the whole rest of the cabinet, I will be putting screws in these later too. All right, we're back with day 2. I got my countersink bit in. Now it's time to build the big cabinet. If you haven't seen other videos of mine, I recently got this shop. I fully insulated it, did a bunch of work in it. And just recently, I got this fireplace installed. It's amazing. It's an absolute game changer. Let me show you why. So as you can see, we've gotten a lot of snow lately, and it is mighty cold outside. So I believe it's about 30, 32 degrees outside right now. And in here, it is about 62, 63. All right, enough about the sweet fireplace. Let's get to building this cabinet. All right, before I begin, I gotta mark out where I'm gonna put these uprights. So I sat here and tried to measure this myself. Having the doors pre-built and building to the doors pre-built is much more difficult than building the doors to the cabinet that's pre-built. With that being said, I tried to sit here and measure it out, but it was confusing me. So I went to Fusion 360, I designed it in there real quick. I got the measurements here. I already got them marked on this board. Now I'm gonna mark them out full length and we'll go from there. All right, so just like the small cabinets, I will assemble these with glue, nails, and screws. This time, I'll be screwing in as I go. These center boards I will not be gluing because like I said earlier, this is pre-finished wood and the glue won't stick to it. So I'm just gonna nail and screw these real quick, starting with the center ones, then I'll work to the outside. If you do any kind of woodworking and you don't have one of these countersink drill bits, I highly recommend you get one. These things are awesome. Super fast, super easy. Makes the screws look good, makes them countersink good. Do it. Off camera, I went ahead and put the cleats on this big cabinet here. So this guy is done. All right, so for face frames, we had a heck of a time matching the wood to these cabinet doors that I already have. These cabinet doors are white oak. We went to buy white oak to match. We could find nothing that had this gray, brown, yellow tone to it. We found this red oak, which is significantly cheaper, like way, way cheaper than white oak. We sorted through everything they had to try to get the lightest, grayest looking pieces that they had. Well, when we brought them home, they look nothing like these cabinet doors. So I think we'll have to pivot a little bit there. Maybe I'll stain everything to try to get them to blend. I don't know, it might look okay when it's on the wall, but we'll see, we'll go from there. This here almost cost as much as the cabinet doors and the plywood put together. So that cheap factor, kind of went out the door with this wood. But if we went white oak, like these are, it would have been double, almost triple. So we're still trying to save some money. Well, I just spent about 45 minutes getting my joiner dialed in. It's a new joiner to me, and the deck wasn't exactly flat. Spent a little time with that, got it dialed in, and I got a couple face frames cut. So unfortunately, I have to cut 2 8-foot long face frames for the top and bottom of the big cabinet. Well, I can't do that on that joiner. So I set up a little straight edge here for my circular saw. We'll get a nice flat edge here, then we'll take it to the table saw and continue milling down. I think it's about time for a new blade on this guy. This poor table saw just does not have the power that I need. It was super cheap though, so it's kind of worth it. I'm thinking maybe I'll just turn it into a dado table saw and just have it solely set up for dados. This other table saw over here has plenty of power. This thing is sweet. I found this on Marketplace from a cabinet shop. It's an awesome table saw. All right, next we're gonna move over to the miter saw and get some of these cut down to rough sizes. All right, you'll be able to see the difference in table saws. Just listen to this one. It's cool. Thing's an absolute beast. Love this table saw. Like butter. All right, now that we have everything cut to width, I am gonna run them through the planer just to kind of clean up the edges. Then we'll get them to exact dimensional lengths and we'll start putting these together. I'm excited for that part. All right, I finally got all the face frame material milled down, ready to go. So I'm gonna be doing these face frames a little bit different than the conventional route. It'll be a lot easier to explain as I'm putting them together. To put all this together, I'm gonna be using pocket holes. So I'm just gonna fly through this part. You've seen plenty of pocket holes, I'm sure. I will say before I begin, I had this exact pocket hole jig before the fire. And this thing's awesome. The quick adjustment on this makes it so easy and so fast. I used to have the little guy too, you know, the little handheld one. It was cool, it worked good. It serves its purpose, but this one's way, way faster. Maybe someday I'll upgrade to the big automatic one, but this works really good until then. All right, this is where it gets tricky again. This is where I figure out if it's all gonna work. I have to measure to make sure that my stiles are in the correct spot for my doors. In all 3 bays have to be exactly perfect. All right, so it's close enough to where if I have to, I can shave down the doors just a tad. I'm 30 and an eighth on either side, and I'm like 30 and almost a 16th in the middle. I think it'll work because the hinges have a little bit of play in them. All right, let's lock this baby down. I just asked my wife to come out and help me get the cabinet up on the workbench. Now it's time to see if these face frames will fit like a glove. Sweet. All right, that fits great, like really good. I'm super excited about that. It feels good to, you know, have some tough measurements work out perfectly. So let me explain a little bit what I was saying about making these face frames a little different than the conventional way. This will probably make a lot more sense when I get everything hung, but on this last style, I made this 1 inch wide. Everything else is 2 inches wide. This last one is gonna butt up to the other cabinet that also has a 1 inch style. So that way when the doors are on here, and there's a gap in between each set of doors, that gap will be symmetrical all the way across the cabinet. Typically, cabinets are built, at least I think, because I'm not a cabinet builder by any means, but I think they're built in individual carcasses and then put up. That way your gap is the same between each door. Well here, because I made this all one big cabinet and then 2 other smaller cabinets, I still wanted that symmetry. I wanted the gaps to be exactly the same all across the whole cabinet. Again, that'll probably make more sense when I get everything hung. But until then, I am going to glue and nail this guy in place, and then I'll work on the other 2 small ones. Hopefully we get these hung soon. There's only a few spots throughout this cabinet where the trim is just, I don't know, up a little bit, a little wavy. So throw in a couple of these clamps just to help with that. They're only 1 inch pins, so it's really just to hold placement while the glue dries. So far, this is turning out sweet. I'm really liking it. I have one little secret I have to show you though, but you can't tell anybody. If you look here, I have a bunch of extra holes for the shelf pins. I totally screwed up on this panel. It's all right. It's been a while since I've been at this woodworking game. You know, you gotta relearn the ropes a little bit. It'll work, nobody will see it. It's all good. It's only this panel, so be it. All right, I'm gonna let the glue dry. We'll move on to the next cabinets. All right, scratch that. I'm a little concerned about the pin nails not being enough and the glue maybe not being enough. So I'm gonna break out this guy. I'm gonna throw some of these in. I'll do them where it's hidden. The doors will cover it, nobody will see it. Honestly, should have just done that in the first place. You can hardly see these nails. All right, now we're gonna let the glue dry. Well, before I move on to the other 2 cabinets, I'm gonna give this a light sanding with some 220 grit paper just to get it nice and smooth. Then we can move on. Much better. Now we can move on to the other 2 cabinets. All right, just like the face frames on the big cabinet, we're gonna glue, pocket hole, put them together, put them on the carcass. This stuff's kind of boring, so we'll just fly through this part too. Sweet, got them both done. All right, I'm gonna sand these up real quick. So as you can see here, I just softened the tops, bottoms, and the outsides of all the face frames. So my plan for hanging these cabinets is to put a cleat on the wall, put the cabinets on the cleat, screw them into place, and then I'll take the cleat off. So the longest, strongest, straightest thing I had in the shop was this 1 inch square metal tubing. So just a minute ago, I took it over to the wall and I put 3 marks where a stud is. So I'm gonna drill out these 3 holes, then we'll move over to the wall. All right, we got all those drilled. Now I'm gonna call my wife out, see if she can help. Try to get this cleat up on the wall. All right, as you can see, I got the laser set up at the almost desired height that I want. I want it a little bit closer to the plugs, but it's as low as my tripod will go. I got my wife here to help me. Piece of metal's not exactly straight like I said it was. There's a small dip in the middle, but it shouldn't matter. I don't know if we can make this swing. Dead nuts enough. Yeah. Freaking solid.
Okay, I'm the top.
Oh, it's not gonna work.
No.
All right, well, when I measured this, I didn't measure it quite right. Let me show you. So the top of the cabinet is hitting the garage door track. It's like less than 1/8 of an inch rubbing the track. Okay, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the bolt out of the track. And that way I can move the track and I can just let it hang wherever. Tomorrow morning I can come in here, grind the track down. Perfect fit. Well, that was fun. Not really, that was a pain in the butt. But we got them up and dang, are they huge. I mean, I measured like 16 times and I didn't think they were gonna be this big. I don't know why measuring, just didn't think they'd be that big, but hey, I'm not complaining. It's awesome. I'm gonna have so much storage in here. Plus they look super good. Wait till we get the doors on, it's gonna look even better. There's probably a couple obvious problems. For one, the miter saw, the doors are gonna hit the miter saw. I knew that going into this. I figured I'll just leave it locked down and then it's out of the way. I truly don't use that saw that much, especially when I have a good table saw sled, which will come later. But I think it'll be just fine down like that. The other obvious problem, maybe you can see, it's pretty dang close to the door going into the future room, whatever it might be. I framed that at 38-inch door opening, so it's really big door. I could frame it at like a 30, 32, even a 34, and it'll be that much smaller. And really, I don't know, to me, I kind of like it because it kind of takes away from the door. Before, the door like stood out like a sore thumb. Now it's just kind of over there. You don't even really pay attention to it because these are so dang big. But all right, today was a good productive day. That's all we got for today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm gonna start off this morning by cutting out the shelves for these cabinets. I'm gonna be using the 1/2-inch plywood that I showed earlier in the video. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna have enough of this 1/2 inch to do all the shelves. I think I counted, I need 15 shelves. So I'll do what I can with the 1/2 inch, and for the rest, I'll use the leftover 3/4 inch. I'm sort of trying to decide which cabinets I want the 1/2 inch ply shelves versus which cabinets I want the 3/4 inch. I think what I want to do is put the 1/2 inch ply in sections where I know I'm not going to put much weight. I'm thinking the center section's probably my strongest, or that end. So I will for sure do 3/4 inch ply on that side, and that's where I could put epoxy or glue or things that are a bit heavier. That way it's got some structure. By the way, these pop-up bench dogs are awesome. They've been working so good. And so is this little stop block. Down here, I don't foresee me getting into this cabinet very much. This cabinet only has 2 points of contact for the screws, so I will keep this as the lightest cabinet. So I'll for sure fill this one up with the 1/2 inch plywood shelves and maybe just keep working this way until I run out, then go 3/4 inch that side. Well, unfortunately, that's all I got for the 1/2 inch, so I'll have to carry on the rest with the 3/4 inch. It's gonna be so much storage. It'd be really nice to not have things out, put everything away. So the way I have this spaced is, this is about 12 inches, 12 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. Should be great. Obviously I can move them however I want, but that's where I put them. Now we're really starting to look like a cabinet. Those shelves turned out great. I may end up in the future adding edge banding, but for now, we'll leave it. It's too boring anyways. So if you remember earlier in the video, I talked about the cabinet doors. I got 5 doors that are hollow, got no panel on the inside, and I got 4 doors that have a panel on the inside. So with these panels, they have 2 different sides to them. They have this side that kind of has a V-groove style, I don't know what to call it. And then there's this side that's flat. So my wife and I went back and forth on which side to put out. She likes this side. I personally like this side. We couldn't decide. So I took it to Instagram. I took a poll yesterday to see what you guys think. Well, there's absolutely no question what you guys think. You all picked this side. I was kind of bummed. I mean, there was like maybe 4 people that picked this side. This looks cool, but I understand. This is the way to go. So we'll get these hung. Now for the hollow side, this part I'm looking forward to. This should be cool. Let me show you. To keep with the theme of building these as cheap as possible, I'm going to use, again, this paint grade MDF that I also got from Habitat for Humanity, and it is also the siding on the whole interior of the shop. To tie in to the cabinet here, I painted it to match the cabinet, which also matches the cabinet that are behind you. To continue to tie into the cheap aspect of this build, I got these door hinges. Now, these aren't like cheap, junky door hinges per se. They are soft close, they are pretty nice, but they are significantly cheaper than any of the other brands. I get these off of Amazon. I had these throughout the entire last house of ours. They worked great, no issue at all. One more thing to keep this cheap aspect. Again, to match the miter station, I printed my own door handles. Now you could say that these aren't cheap because I had to pay for the 3D printer, but I got a screaming deal on the 3D printer. So these are cheap. Granted, you might not be able to find as good of a deal on a 3D printer as we did, but still, if you had a 3D printer and you were to print your own door handles, it would be way cheaper than if you had to go buy them. So far, they work super good on the miter station, so I'm just gonna carry it on with this. And I think, again, like the miter station, the color combo is gonna be spot on. Now, I know earlier I talked about staining the face frames and the doors. I'm not sure what I wanna do yet, so I'm gonna get everything installed and we'll see how it looks. So a few minutes ago, I went to the store to try to find 1/2-inch pin nails for these doors. I was gonna glue and then pin nail these panels in place. We don't have a great selection of stores around here. I'd have to order them. So what I'm doing instead is I'm gluing the panel in, putting plywood on the back of the panel. Then I have these slabs right here that I'm putting on top of that to weigh it down until the glue dries. All right, so while those are drying, I'm gonna work on installing the hinges to these doors here. So what I like to do first is lay out my doors and see what I want, top, bottom, hinge side versus inside, yada yada. So I look for any cracks or any imperfections. There's an imperfection here, so I want that to be on the top. All right, and then I mark where the hinges go, because I've screwed this up so many times in the past. If I don't mark it, I mess up. All right, now I basically just set up an assembly line and run through the process. I'll have links for these hinges in the description below. They are pretty good. I mean, they're cheap, they're kind of flimsy, but they are pretty good. They do work pretty well. And just like that, rinse and repeat, one after the next. All right, I got these 4 doors done. These are for the 2 end cabinets. I'm gonna go ahead and get these hung real quick. That way it gives a little bit more time for the glue to dry on the other doors. All right, to get these doors hung, I made this little jig here this morning. So I put this on the bottom of the face frame and it gives me exactly a 1/2-inch reveal underneath. So I'll clamp this here, put the door on top of it, then screw the door in. That went pretty dang smooth, actually. Unfortunately, this is the side that gets harder for me. My coordination with my left hand drilling is not near as good as the right hand. Moment of truth, see if all the work pays off. Sweet. It's a pretty decent sized gap, but there's a lot of adjustment in those hinges. Dang, that looks good. All right, I'll worry about making adjustments later. Let's move on to installing the other side. All right, just like the other side, there's a decent gap there, but again, I can adjust those hinges pretty well. That's looking so good. I can't wait to see what it looks like with the rest of the panels, having the greens match. Let's move on to the rest. Let's get this guy done. All right, I got all those hinges installed. That was pretty fun, pretty painless. Now it's time to get them installed. I am super excited to see how these look. I really, really hope they look good. I think they're gonna look great, but no better way to find out than to get them installed. All right, there's no editing magic here. I have not seen this yet. This will be a reveal for both of us. Let's do this. Dang, that looks sick. Oh, that looks cool. That looks real cool. I love that it ties in with the miter station. I love it. Just like the outside doors, I got to do some adjustment on the hinges. I got to close up these gaps. This one's not closing all the way. This one's higher than this one. Easy fixes, easy adjustments on the hinges. But man, does that look good. My wife is so jealous that this is in the shop and not in her house. She wants cabinets this size so bad, and I don't blame her. We'll get there someday. Someday. All right, what do you think of the color? Think it's okay? I think it's okay. I kind of like the natural wood. Just like I have the bare metal, got the natural wood. Most everything I build, I got some kind of oil or stain or clear coat or something on it. Kind of like just the natural aspect. So here you can get a really good feel of what I was talking about. Having this face frame be 1 inch so that the gap between all the doors is exactly the same. That way it's symmetrical all the way across the cabinets. Let's move on to these handles. I think these will give it a nice finishing touch too. So if you didn't watch my miter station video, I designed and printed these to have threads in them for a normal cabinet pull bolt. Well, it didn't work at all. So I had to hand thread these with a 1/4 20 bolt thread. It's the only tap I have. It works really well. It worked great on the miter station. It'll work again here, but I have to drill these out quite a bit bigger to accept that 1/4 20 bolt. So I'm gonna use my center punch to punch that and get to drilling. So unfortunately, these bolts are a tad long without the washer, so I have to put the washer on them too. It doesn't look the best, but it's what you get for doing things cheap, I guess. Just gotta make it work. That's all that matters. Yeah, so I'm not so sure I like the handles. All right, well, I had my wife come out and got her opinion on the handles. We both agree I'm gonna continue with the handles. We think it'll be a little unfinished if I don't do it, and that way it looks kind of finished. And with having the handles installed, it does look finished. It looks good. Also, it's been about an hour since I last spoke, and they're kind of growing on me. They're looking better now. And I think if I continue and finish it on, it'll be good. Oh yeah, that looks way better. All right, now that those are on, I'm super happy I did that. They look super, super good. And with those on, that completes this one. This was a really fun project. I'm really glad it's done. I can't wait to fill it up. I think it's gonna be super useful. I'm looking forward to having all the tools and everything put away in it. I'm gonna get this cleaned up. I'm gonna get the doors lined up. We'll move into beauty shots. But before we do that, let me know what you think. I'm curious to know, do you like the green? Do you like the handles? More importantly, do you think I should stain the face frames? Do you think I should do anything with those or leave them raw? I'm curious to know what you think. Here's the total price breakdown of this project. The face frames came in at the single most expensive material at $120. The plywood cost me $50, the doors cost $76, hinges $20, and miscellaneous at $20. Total cost of this project, $286. Not bad. With that, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.